every time we do it a little bit better. So we're always learning, and that's the thing in in farming. There's always things to learn and ways to develop. And be, as Sarah said, be profitable along the way. We've got budgets that we still need to meet on farm as far as live weight gain on farm. So to be able to still continue that along that track and pump those weight gains along, it is quite rewarding to see that at this stage it's working quite well.
The Biological Farming Roundtable podcast helps farmers explore innovative, low-input, regenerative and profitable farming systems. The Biological Farming Roundtable is sponsored by Nutrisoil, an award-winning biological liquid fertiliser made from a big worm farm. Nutrisoil's purpose is to empower farmers to produce life-enriching food. My name is Nakala Maddock. I work at Nutrisoil. I envisage a future where farmers are rewarded for producing nutrient-rich foods and consumers have this easily available to them. Hello, today I'm here with Aiden and Sarah Coombes. Aiden is the farm manager of Westmore, a 3,400 hectare grazing property owned by Greenhams in the west of Tasmania. They also have their own farm that Sarah predominantly does work in while Aiden works here. Tell us a bit about, firstly about your farm, Sarah. I'll open it up to you.
Yeah, sure. So, we bought our farm in 3 different areas. They all join, which is we're very fortunate. So we bought, first of all, a 72 acre block, and with a house on it. So that's how we really got a start. And then we had a bit of a look around. We then bought another 140 acre block, and then a 23 acre block. So all join up, which we're very fortunate.
Yeah, fabulous. And what do you farm on there?
So we have breeding cows, and we've also got some dairy beef hobby calves.
Yeah. Okay. And Aiden, tell us about Greenhams.
Yeah, sure. So, Westmore, it's 2,700 hectares of effective grazing. So we're all grass fed. We generally finish 5,000 to 5,500 cattle every year for the processing facility in Smithton, mainly under the Never Ever banner, which is one of our grass fed program. One of the key brands for that is Cape Grim beef, which is widely known around Australia, but also worldwide, especially in America. So rotationally grazed. We generally only feed out some silage through the autumn period where we want to build a feed wedge going into winter, really focusing on a grass-based system. So.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm also here with Robin Tait. Robin is a consultant in Tasmania and she really specialises in diversity and natural farming systems, and Robin consults for Aiden and Sarah, and I think you have a traditional agronomist as well. So how long, Aiden, have you been working the Westmore farm?
Yeah, sure. So, funnily enough, when I left Year 12 in 2013, I come and worked here as a farmhand before Greenhams owned the property. And then I think Westmore or Greenhams have owned Westmore for 8 years now. So I come back on and managed Westmore, started 3 years ago. So we're in our 4th year managing the property. So it's been a terrific challenge coming from probably more a livestock buying career. So I spent 5 years as a buyer for the company, travelling on the far northwest mainly, but also spending time on the mainland, auditing farmers into our Never Ever program when that was first getting underway. Across the water on the Big Island, through southern Australia. So anywhere from where you guys up in Albury, Wodonga, through to Kingston South East to the mountains of Victoria. So I got to see a lot of country. So that's sort of my quick story about how I come to manage Westmore. So
okay, and Sarah, you've got a farming background.
Yes, I grew up on a dairy farm in Tagari. So my dad and my mum ran a dairy farm, and so I've grown up on a dairy farm.
Yeah. Okay. I'll ask about the Never Ever program a bit later, but first I want to hear more about where you were and the transition that you've had in increasing your soil health and how you've done it.
Yeah, sure. So I've always liked to think outside the square and trying to push the limits on what we do, and researching different ways of doing things. And it was probably the first spark that I had was sitting down watching the Netflix documentary Kiss the Ground or Kiss the Dirt. And so that I started to ask a few questions around that, but it probably, there was a bit of a lull period where I didn't do too much more digging, but then have come to this scenario or place where there is a big wide world of knowledge to be had in the soil health aspect, and the link between soil health and also human health is I couldn't believe how big a link there actually was between the two. So Westmore's been traditionally farmed in a synthetic way, so still a grass-based system, but very much synthetic inputs, so fertilisers and potentially some sprays in the synthetic space. But over the last 12 to 18 months, we've started to really work in a more natural state with our foliar feeding, and the fertilisers that we do use are very much in the natural or biological space. So that's going to be an interesting one to continue to work through. Improvements in animal health, improvements in the soil structure, microbial activity, and then obviously helping along the dung beetles and the worms, the bees, all those natural things that might be a little bit suppressed in a synthetic operation. So trying to enhance the what do you call it, the natural, not the natural investment, but the natural side of what we've actually got on farm, to help at the end of the day be profitable, but be profitable in a good clean way. So yeah.
So Aiden, like the west coast of Tasmania is quite different to the rest of Tassie, and probably a lot of our Australia mainland listeners probably. Do you want to describe what the farm is like and your weather conditions? And
only the toughest survive down here, Robin. So we're on a 1,050 to 1,200 mil rainfall, and that a lot of that rain predominantly falls through June, July, August. So there is a thing called sideways rain, and we do get a lot of that through that period. So the plant species that are here or have been here in the past, they've been survivors. This climate, it doesn't actually necessarily frost. We might get 2-3 frosts here a year if we're lucky, but it's bitterly cold when that big westerly, southerly wind comes through with rain. It's definitely a different climate, and people come and from whether they're from the mainland or even from other parts of Tassie to work, and that's one thing they really notice, especially at that time of the year, is it's a harsh environment. We've sort of learnt to enjoy it and embrace it, and don't moan too much about it when we've got to get all our wet weathers on and go out for the day. It's just a part of the farming scene here, and we love it for sure.
Sarah, were you watching the Kiss the Ground movie at the same time?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Okay, so what was the discussions? Because you're from a traditional farming family. Were you...
Look, I think it was so eye-opening. It's like opening the doors to a different side of things that I just never had thought about before. And so I guess going from a traditional dairy farming, high inputs scenario, and then all of a sudden seeing what could happen. Yes, there was a lot of doubts and a lot of things that we talked through, but I guess until you start to implement some things to actually turn some things around, I guess you can't say it doesn't work unless you try.
Yeah, you were certainly, we were talking before, making sure always profitable. So, of course we can do this, and it might be better for human health, it might be better for the animal health, but are we going to stay profitable? Are we going to stay on this farm?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess growing up, like my dad was always like, okay, so if we do this, if we feed, if we put on this much urea or this much fertilizer, then we can get this much grass growth, which will then in turn be profitable. And so I guess taking away those high inputs and then putting more of a regenerative side of things onto things, like how is that going to stack up in the long run, and how is this going to be profitable? If we're not putting those things in, how are we going to grow the grass, which then fattens your beef and makes you money? So
So Robin, what consulting do you do that's different to the agronomic consulting that they might have received previously or still at the time, so working together?
Yeah, so I suppose I bring in a perspective of reading the landscape and what's actually happening in the whole farm ecosystem and the soil, and looking at what the weeds or the indicator plants are telling us out there, and just bringing that knowledge to Aiden. Aiden's very much a person who's researched a lot, and it just having someone for him to bounce those ideas off and that knowledge that he's bringing into the farm. How does this actually work and translate into the grass production? And then also we're looking at bringing in diversity into the pastures. So some advice around what seeds to be bringing, how can we get that actually growing in our paddocks when we're we're not using sprays to spray off the paddock before we plant and heavy cultivation. It's all around, I suppose it's working as a team to brainstorm how we could be doing everything differently.
Going back to what you were doing before, your synthetics, did you transition? What was the steps to because you're synthetic free now on this farm, which is amazing for a commercial beef finishing farm. Tell us about the transition.
Yeah, sure. So I always talked about potentially knocking a rotation out and just investigating it and doing it for a rotation. In a rotation, I mean that's where livestock would move through. So for Obba 300, you'd probably have 150 to 200 hectares. So I was keen and planning to give that a try. But the more research and the further I dug into what can happen in the regenerative space, there was a certain amount of leap of faith, but I was confident that things were going to turn around. The soil to a certain degree was already in a reasonably healthy spot. We didn't have highly degraded soils, but I wanted we wanted to enhance the soil. So, generally spreading synthetic superphosphates through the late spring and early autumns, potentially doing a spray for weeds through the autumn period for an autumn clean that's traditionally done in the area. Those things were knocked out and were replaced with some things like reactive rock phosphate, foliar spray, including the Nutrisoil, with some kelp and fish hydrolysis, and then also working with the species grass or the sward in a direct drilling scenario. So still plenty of work to do in that space to get a really good establishment. To direct drill pasture that hasn't been sprayed out in this environment. All those plants are survivor plants that are originally there. So to outcompete them and get above them is taking some work to nut out and work through. But every time we do it a little bit better. So we're always learning, and that's the thing in farming. There's always things to learn and ways to develop. And be, as Sarah said, be profitable along the way. We've got budgets that we still need to meet on farm as far as live weight gain on farm. So to be able to still continue along that track and pump those weight gains along, it is quite rewarding to see that at this stage it's working quite well.
So you're
Yep.
definitely monitoring, you're doing your soil tests, your sap tests, you're visually walking the paddocks all the time.
Yeah.
You've got other people working on the property as well, and you're doing the weight,
Yeah.
weighing them in.
Yeah.
So it's something that, it's taking the risk out when you're monitoring so much. The species that you had in before, I think there was 3 species. How many species are you moving up to now?
Yeah, look, we're trying to work with 10 to a dozen species, obviously trying to hit all the plant families that we can to get the corn sensing happening and diversity of sugars down the root systems. So I don't know where the upper limit of the amount of seed that can go into the ground for the different species and families, but I think if we can start to establish at least half a dozen of those and then start to tweak up from there. It's going to be beneficial for the soil, but then also animal health and then live weight gain through that as well. So yeah.
And the species mixes, Robin, you're putting those together?
Yeah, helping put them together, and then working with the seed supplier in what varieties we can actually get of those particular families. So yeah.
So is it difficult to source seed?
Bare seed particularly can be quite tricky here in Tasmania. We do have that little piece of water that requires us to have high quarantine standards, so it's not easy for us to get something like Grant Sims mixes in. But then in saying that, we've got some really interested people in Tassie who are doing a great job getting new species in for us, and the different like plant families, like something like Phacelia, the sheep's burnet. We're looking at sheep's parsley as well, and how we can get those in. So yeah, it's a little bit challenging, but it's getting a lot easier. Yeah.
And the way that you sow these species in it's changed as well. Tell us how you used to manage sowing and what your process is now.
Yeah, sure. So Westmore has had quite a thick root thatch or mat or whatever you want to call it. So we've always seen that we need to bust that root mat up to be able to get new seed to germinate and grow. So it was always disking first, and then go through with a rotary hoe with the air seeder on the back to chop up any of that weed root mat, which to a certain degree worked quite well, especially when because we generally do that in the spring. So spring can be a time obviously where the tap turns off and it doesn't rain, but for the far northwest we always tend to get a shower of rain when we really need it. So that did establish quite well, but we've moved away from that for numerous reasons. Obviously, trying to keep the ground covered and minimal tillage. So moved to the Novag drill, which is the direct drill. The particular drill that we use has just had liquid inject put into that system, so we're really excited with that. We've still got to work on our seed treatment with Nutrisoil and potentially kelp, just to help with that germination and the biology around the seed. So there's plenty still to work on and work towards, but every time we're doing it hopefully a little bit better.
Sarah, you're probably again talking previously, like we just keep it simple. We just want to know what's going to work and how to do it profitably. And Aiden, you get a little bit more into the science of things. We went to Nutrisoil put on a day with Joel Williams and Soil First in Tasmania on Tuesday, and you guys both went, and you both walked away with something just a little bit different. So tell us, Sarah, firstly tell us what you took away from it and what your feelings were.
Yeah, so as I said, I think we can overcomplicate things so much, but it was just so interesting just hearing the science behind it. Yes, we know that mixed species enhances your soil health, but I guess just hearing the science behind it and why that actually works, I guess. And for me, just hearing about the compounds and just the minerals, what is it called?
Yeah,
The micros and macros.
The micros and macros, and just the process of, I guess, the plant actually making the proteins and what it requires at each stage. And so that was really interesting. If it doesn't have nitrogen at that stage, then that will just then cut off. So that was really interesting. Also, I guess just the different, if you've got mixed species in a paddock, the different root systems can draw up the different different minerals and I guess the length of the root systems as well. Like we know that like a mixed species crop is really good, but we've just I guess I've never really thought of it why it is important.
Interesting that complexity, nature has done that itself. And we look at all of those different cofactors that it needs, and there's a list, and then there's more because he said he didn't put it all up there. So that mineralization and the microbes making all that available is really that end goal, isn't it? But there's that transition that Joel's really helping people to try and understand, and it can get tricky.
And I guess one other thing was, like, if you've got a crop with just the one species through it, like that's actually more competitive for those plants than getting, because they're all after the same nutrients and the same root level. That was really, really interesting. Whereas if you've got different species, mixed species in that crop, then they're all different root levels. So get access to different nutrients. They're looking for different things. And so, very, very interesting.
More is solubilized, so you don't get that build up of what he's talking about, that nitrate that doesn't actually get through the system because it doesn't have the cofactors. Aiden, what did you get out of it?
So a big thing that I learnt or probably just re-established some things in my mind was around the micronutrients. We focus in the conventional space so much about NPK, but probably forget about a lot of other minerals, micros and macro minerals in the whole system, and especially potentially around silicon and things that you wouldn't even give a second thought to, that can have so many critical factors in animal health and root development and all those things. So let's not just focus on the surface and the two or three that get pushed down our throats in a conventional space. We've really got to understand a little bit deeper than that on the micro and macro scale. So that was nice to reinforce some of those things that I've been listening to or reading, and there was so much. I think everyone walked away from it with their heads absolutely full, and it just takes some time to digest what Joel's saying, because he's just brilliant at communicating and getting people to understand it. So
I must say it was an extremely attentive crowd. Like everyone was just totally focused and wanting to learn. And I think sometimes we all had a little bit of shut eye because it was a
big day.
so much. But then you would hear something that you needed to hear, and you're like, okay, right, we're going again.
And every time that once you're in that space and you're researching, sometimes it's really heavy to start with, and you're like, oh man, I'm never going to remember this or understand it. And then you go to something like that, and it just all starts to become so clear and you can understand it. So, I think don't get disheartened and bogged down by the science straight up. You've got to work and ease your way into it.
It is. You really got to let that drip feed happen. So you've got to unwind everything you've learnt, don't you? Especially from the conventional system. You're like, well, no, but that doesn't work. Well, have you tried? You've been doing this for so long, and now you're actually in a different soil from when you might have tried before. So there's so much going on. And this is going to be a bit more, you're going to learn a bit more, I guess, because you've heard so much, Robin. What did you take from Joel's talk?
For me, I love listening to the why, or understanding why we're seeing maybe plants not, like, in a leaf test you might have really high nitrates, and you're like, well, why is this? And we go, oh, well, the rates are good, but then it's actually maybe we're missing all our micronutrients. So I love hearing the detail and the science behind the why, and that just helps me to be able to explain it to everybody else who I'm working with. And for me, the amino acids, supplying a plant with amino acids, which can come from Nutrisoil, which is amazing that that natural product has
worm
got
makes it.
the worm makes the amino acids, and then the plant doesn't have to use as much energy because it's the building blocks which go into the proteins. And one big thing for me is when we are using chemicals like herbicides and fungicides, the plant actually sees that as a toxin and it wants to detox and has to use energy and breaks down the proteins into the amino acids to then detox the plant and then use that energy to break that again and then put it back into the proteins. And if we could actually supply our amino acids when we may be putting
out the herbicide,
the plant doesn't have to lose its energy as much. We don't check the production of that plant. So so much. And I think every time we get together and have a conversation, we go, oh yeah, I remember that. And that's how that actually works. So a great day. And it's just amazing. No one wanted to leave.
No.
And we went a whole hour over time and everyone still had a million questions. So
and everyone was trying to make whatever they were doing the day smaller so we could hear more about Joel.
That's right.
From Joel. I mean, he was an international speaker and he was brilliant, and his energy kept going up through the day.
He was amped up.
That's right.
He's
really he has found his passion and knows how to educate us.
Very good educator. So no synthetics at all on the property?
So that's in the foliar space and in the fertiliser space for sure. On our animal health side, we still do some of the products are certified organic or in that space, but there is still a few products that we use, mainly selenium, that is in a synthetic form, and some drench, but we are starting to use less and less of that over time, but I see that the animal health side of it with their trace elements is critical in growth and lots of different things. So I'm still not confident to completely drop some of those things out, but definitely in the fert and foliar space, we've been 12 months with no synthetics. So
And how would you say that your pastures are looking with that transition?
Yeah, we've noticed it on both properties, and when you talk about in late spring, last to dry off and first to get going again, and we're probably seeing that a little bit this autumn with the minimal rainfall that we've had, that it has stayed green and growing, and each bit of rain that we get it does boost it along pretty well. So visually we can see that there is some benefit out of that, let alone all the things it's doing underground that we can't see. So
And Sarah, the numbers are stacking up for you.
Again, I'm just so surprised of how well, I guess, on our own property, how well that's looking for this time of year, for the rainfall that we've had. I don't know if we could have done it if we were with synthetics. For I guess how dry it has been. It's just being able to retain the moisture so far so good.
And with we would generally do a blend with nitrogen NPK, which obviously is going to dry your root system out over the summer. So we haven't done that, and I think the roots have held in well and kept drawing moisture up. It's pretty positive, Nakala. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. And you're doing the sap and the tissue tests, and you are identifying 2 traces that aren't probably coming through to the plant at the moment. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so what we did at our own property last autumn was we done some sap testing, then we done some foliar spraying of Nutrisoil and the mix, and then re-sapped, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks after it. And two of the elements was boron and molybdenum was basically below desired level, so it was just completely non-existent in the plant. And also high nitrate, because that was the last time that we'd spread some urea. So there was a few things there that started to prick my ears. So we'll start sap testing very shortly again this year. And I think we'll see potentially maybe boron and molybdenum might be still lagging in the system, because on our totals testing, they have also been quite low actually in the soil. Every every other element on the totals test is quite high in the red basalt. But those two are two that are a bit lower on the soil test. So it will be interesting to see with the SAPs over the next 3 or 4 months that we do them, where they sit on the charts. So yeah.
Yeah. And on the Westmore property, is it similar with the SAP tests there, or it's more you were seeing in the animal that you needed to address those trace mineral?
Yeah, definitely in the animal,
Yeah.
we could see some big deficits, especially in selenium and copper. The soil here being on high rainfall over the time, there's probably been a lot of leaching happening. So the animal hasn't in the past got much mineral out of the plant. So hopefully that'll change going forward. That's one thing that I'm really looking forward to, is if we can actually start to get some of the mineral out of the plant, so we don't have to go and I suppose manually do that with the animal. Still plenty of SAP testing to do. The micros the micros, there's definitely a limited supply in this Westmore country. It was predominantly tea tree type country, button grass, plains and things like that. So there wasn't a heap of diversity back in the day. And yeah, for whatever reason, it just doesn't have as much mineral compared to the red basalt. So yeah.
Okay. You did tell me when we were driving around that you had plants that were they're just showing a bit of purple, so you were thinking, okay, well, I've got a phosphorus deficiency here. But then when you looked at your totals, phosphorus was really high. That was a bit of an eye-opener.
Yeah, for sure. So looking at the plan, and it's showing, potentially that it was a phosphorus deficiency, but I could have went and just single super or put whatever phosphorus onto the soil and hope for the best in the next year. But then looking at the totals and seeing that phosphorus is through the roof in that soil, get back to basics and get the soil health right and get the microbial activity in with the worms, to really get that phosphorus cycling. And we're starting probably to see a little bit of that ring true. The purpling wasn't there this spring. So yeah, there's some good signs there.
Yeah. So the multi-species, Robin, that you're putting together, do you see that they have the potential to balance and bring all of these micronutrients? Will it balance out?
Yeah, we're hoping that it will. I mean, because every plant has the ability to unlock different I will take that back. Taking actually feeding the different biology, which unlocks different micronutrients. So by getting our diversity of plants out there, lots of different plant families, is going to be feeding a particular microbial community, which will hopefully unlock some of the selenium and the phosphorus and everything that's lacking out there. So there's lots of potential to create and get this to happen.
Yeah. And the plan, so you've only done 2 paddocks so far with these multi-species. How many paddocks?
We done that. Yeah, so the first trial last autumn was 10 hectares, and then done a bigger trial in the spring on 150 hectares, and we did 10 hectares at our own property as well. So we're going to go again at both properties. Westmore will do about 130 hectares. We'll do about 10 hectares. And continue to learn and tweak species that might have done well or mightn't have done well, just to really create that diversity and continue to build on that.
Yeah. And what works well at the moment while the soil's building might be completely different in a couple of years' time as that soil starts to transition and the evolution of biology happens under there. So
yeah, and for us at Westmore, when the cattle first come, we give them a pretty significant induction on the trace elements. So that's one thing that I'm going to have to really be onto going forward, is if the soil is building some of those micros into the plant, that we're actually not going to the nth degree and actually overloading their system with it. So that's one thing that I can see in the distance, that we will need to be really onto that to make sure that our cattle are still happy. Yeah.
So you have like a pasture improvement plan. You probably always have. Where do you see this going in the next 10 years?
Yeah, yep. So for the Westmore property, 2,700 hectares. So hopefully we'll do about 270 hectares a year, split over the two autumn and spring, to then get around it in 10 years. Trying to obviously add as much diversity as we can, and in 10 years' time I think we'll be much wiser than what we are right now too, so we can really hone in on what's working and what's not. But yeah, creating a diverse pasture. One thing that is probably lacking on Westmore a little bit, a lot of our shelter has been exposed to animals or cattle around them, so some of the trees aren't liking that, so we're going to start a pretty big program based around fencing off a lot of the trees that might still be in paddocks, and also adding more shelter belts and diversity that the cattle potentially can't get access to. So in the wet climate, tree roots and cattle don't mix that well, so got to keep them out of it where possible.
Okay. Yeah. Aiden, you've talked about human health and your interest in the connection to that, and I think from Kiss the Ground and everything. But Sarah, what do you think about that connection from how we farm to human health and how you're managing the cattle and the pastures?
Yeah, sure. Like, I mean, it's natural to do what we're doing, and I guess going down a regenerative spot. I mean, I've always been, I guess, coming from a farming background, it's always sort of the greenie thing, and it's not that, like, it's not the greenie thing, but I guess just trying to get the nutrients out of the food that we eat, and I guess having your eyes open to what is actually sprayed onto our food and what is put in. Like, there's no wonder that there's so many people with deficiencies and so many sicknesses out there that they probably never had 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And so I guess trying to get our cattle in as healthy a spot as they can be, and then in turn that beef is going to be a lot more healthier for humans to then eat. So
nutrient dense.
Nutrient dense, yeah.
It's the buzzword, really, isn't it? Yeah. Nutrient dense.
But let's not be that crazy greenie that's making it really hard for farmers, and they don't understand what farming is. Let's make this easy for farmers. Let's make it practical and profitable. Yeah, keep family farmers on farms, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, we're probably fairly young in the farming sector, but we still want to be doing it, in 50, 60 years' time. So, we've got to do everything in our power to help people understand, but also be getting our soil and our country into the healthiest state it can be.
And we want to be producing the best product that we can produce, and so if that is going down this pathway, then then so be it.
Yeah.
And we're probably pretty unique on the far northwest. It's consistent rainfall, 1,050 mils every year in, year out. I can show records for the past 10 years and it's 1,050 every single year. Yeah, for sure. So it's that consistency. So we want to show some consistency too. So, yeah.
I have to ask this question, Aiden. You have you've helped them work out how to take synthetic fertilizers and herbicides out of a commercial business. How did you do that? How long did that take? When did they listen?
Look, it's a continual process. Got to remain profitable.
Yes.
We've got weight to achieve. So that's all got to happen. So I suppose in life you got to back yourself in. You got to understand. And for myself, you got to do the research. You can't just do it on a whim and get handed some nice pretty brochures and say, look, in 6 months you can change this whole thing and it's all going to be happy days. You've got to put in the work and really understand it. And that's where with Nutrisoil been so good at making sure you understand why you're doing it, how to read soil tests, podcasts with like-minded people, having people like Robin, Dave Hardwick, all those people that they've got a passion to see such healthy systems. It gives you a lot of confidence to go, yeah, righto, this is fair income, and you can look to any part of the world, whether it's Richard Perkins in Sweden or John Kempf in America, Joel Williams in Canada, any of those people. the amount of knowledge and understanding they have, and they've been there, they've done it. So yeah, you just gotta commit to it, and so that's it's a journey, but it is starting to happen. So yeah.
I think the thing is, like on Red Part, we didn't just go cold turkey. Like it was kind of like a slow wean off that. And for me, really looking at the totals testing that we done on our soil and seeing all of these things locked up, and it's like, how do we have access? How do we gain access to those things? And like, we're not going to be just spreading phosphorus and nitrogen. We've got so much in our soil already. Like that seems like it's crazy. Like there must be something going on. And yeah, for me, like it was a real eye opener to see that we've got so many things locked up. Something in this cycle must be amiss. So.
And then if you start working out the costs. If you were to go and buy 3.6 tonne of phosphorus per hectare or copper or cobalt, like that's millions of dollars worth of mineral sitting there ready to utilise. And we totally understand that sometimes you've got to replenish those things. You can't just take and not give. So, but that's where multi-species, microbial diversity, that activity, that's all going to come into play because for Sarah and myself, like, we're young property owners. We've done it all ourselves. The assumption might be, you've been looked after elsewhere, but at the end of the day, we've got our money where our mouth is. We've taken on this debt, and at the end of the day, it is what it is. But we want to do the best we can. So yeah.
From like all that knowledge that you've gained and you've seen, have the people that you're answering to and saying, look, we're not going to use synthetics anymore, have they listened to any of this information, or is it their direction that they're taking, or you're really driving this?
Yeah, I suppose I should really mention, so Greenhams are just about to release a Greenhams sustainability program. So we've got our Never Ever program, which has lots of protocol around nil grain, nil antibiotics, no HGPs or GMs in the cattle, but taking a step forward in the sustainability space with healthy ecosystems, also talking about people and how to manage them in a healthy state. So the company is definitely going into the direction of that sustainability or regenerative space. So that's probably been a helping hand for them to understand that there is another way, and to bring that to the fore, because the consumer of our grass-fed meat, especially out of America, they're asking for regenerative claims. Can you supply us with regenerative products? So for me, that's probably, there's a bit of satisfaction there that, okay, it's actually happening, on a worldwide basis, that little old Tasmania, if we can produce a regenerative product, then that we've got access to a big overseas market. And once again, we'll be profitable because we can supply them with a premium product. So, yeah.
That's probably one of the biggest challenges in regenerative agriculture, is to have that label to say you're regenerative, who's auditing it, that type of thing. So Greenhams have actually created their own did they create the Never Ever program?
Correct, yeah. The Never Ever program, which aligns with the Certified Humane out of America, with their protocols. We've also got our GAP program, Global Animal Partnership program, which is a program also out of America. So that's, there's protocols and steps that producers have to do to be able to be a part of that program. But yeah, interesting in the regenerative space, we'll have our protocol that's been set and worked through with our customers in America. But very much that space is still probably quite new in the auditing type space, or the parameters that might be set, and we've got to be really careful about how we go about that. But there's definitely going to be an auditing process that'll align with the new Greenhams sustainability program. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I just think well done to the both of you on being united in what you want to achieve and working together and being that next generation of agriculture and wanting to be on the farm for the next 50 years. So thank you very much for chatting with us today. Thank you for taking us out on this beautiful farm and taking us to end of the earth.
Yeah, that's the edge of the world.
The edge of the world, is that what it's called?
That's it. Yeah.
It's a site in Tasmania for anyone that's wondering what the hell we're talking about, but I think that's what we're going to name the podcast.
Yeah, thanks very much to Nakala,
Yeah,
Nigel, and Robin as well. It's been a really cool journey so far, and it's only just beginning. I think there's so much opportunity in the agricultural space. We can sit back and cross our arms and say it's all getting too hard, and carbon and methane and emissions, it's all just getting too hard. But I think we've just got to sit down, have a think about it, change our perspective, ask ourselves some pretty hard questions, and you never know where you'll end up. So
Wonderful. That's so exciting. Thanks, guys.
sure, thank you. No worries.
Please follow the Biological Farming Roundtable podcast. Share it with your friends and networks. I'm Nakala Maddock and I work at Nutrisoil, a liquid biological fertiliser made from a big worm farm whose purpose is to empower farmers to produce life-enriching food.